The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, April 22nd, 2022. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Alex Pareene of the AP newsletter for Alex Pareene, and contributing editor to the New Republic, is here to help us break down the news of the week. Meanwhile, yesterday, Biden officially rolled out another $800 million package in military aid for Ukraine, bringing the total since the invasion to $3.4 billion. I think there are legitimate fears about where that flood of weapons will end up when it's all said and done. But the brutality from Russia's end is understandably what's at the forefront of everyone's minds. Ukrainian officials have released satellite footage of what appear to be mass graves outside of Mariupol, up to 9,000 bodies, Ukrainian officials say. On Sunday, incumbent center-right Emmanuel Macron will face off again against far-right Marine Le Pen in a presidential runoff. A victory for Le Pen would be a disaster for France, particularly for Muslim members of the country. Back in the U.S., Kevin McCarthy was caught in a lie. A New York Times report claimed McCarthy told Republicans he would ask Trump to resign. McCarthy vigorously denied, but whoops, there's audio. More on that in a second. In Florida, the state Senate has approved a legislative map that cuts the number of seats designated black voters in half. DeSantis is expected to sign it. The Florida legislature is more important, focused on more important things than that, though. Gerrymandering black voters so they have less power. Because the state house is voting to revoke Disney World's designation as a special tax district because they might have a gay person in their next movie. These are the big issues at hand. And lastly, in Atlanta, Georgia, Apple Store workers become the first Apple location to formally seek a union. They've officially filed a petition, but this comes as Apple employees here in New York at Grand Central Terminal Store have started signing cards that could lead to filing for a vote. All this and more on today's program. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is the final show I will be solo flying. Sam should be back on Monday. It's been 2 weeks. It's been a long 2 weeks. I mean, I enjoy it, but it'll be nice for him to take some of the heat off.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So I get to work less. That's what I would like, to work less.
Yeah, sit in the backseat a little bit.
Yep. It's a little more comfy, more room to spread your legs out, so to speak. But a reminder, if you want to come see us live in Boston, there are very few tickets left. May 15th at the Wilbur Theater, we'll be doing another live show. The one we did in Brooklyn here in our backyard was a smash hit. I think people had a really great time. I know we had a really great time. Check us out if you're in the area, or if you will be in the area, May 15th in Boston. With that said, let's turn to this Kevin McCarthy story. Yesterday, there was a report out of the New York Times that Kevin McCarthy told fellow Republicans in the near aftermath of January 6th, the insurrection attempt, that he would ask Trump to resign. This report comes out of a part of a book written by Alexander Burns and Jonathan Martin of the New York Times. This is a part of a trend that I think is troubling Bob Woodward did this too. They've sat sitting on information about the Trump administration in particular in order to sell their books. So they seem to have had this information for quite a while. And this is a part of the drip, drip, drip in order to promote their book. But they did, so they withheld it from their employer, the New York Times, honestly, and waited, sat on it, issued a report detailing this information, or it put it in an article, I should say. It also said in that article that McConnell wanted to pursue impeachment. So McCarthy said he would ask Trump to resign. McConnell wanted to pursue impeachment. Kevin McCarthy angrily denied these claims, said that's outrageous. A few hours later, whoops, audio of him saying just that in a conversation with Liz Cheney was released. Here that is. Here it is.
Here it is.
Here it is.
Liz, you on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks, Kevin. I guess there's a question. When we were talking about the 25th Amendment resolution, and you asked if what happens if it gets there after he's gone. Is there any chance? Are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
I've had some few discussions. My gut tells me no. I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight. I haven't talked to him in a couple of days. From what I know of him, I mean, you guys all know him too. Do you think he'd ever back away? But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to call him. This is what I think. No, it'll pass the House. I think there's a chance it'll pass the Senate even when he's gone. And I think there's a lot of different ramifications for that. Now, I haven't had a discussion with the Dems that if he did resign, would it not happen? Now, this is one personal fear I have. I do not want to get into any conversation about Pence partying.
Sure.
I mean, the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, and it would be my recommendation we should resign. I mean, that would be my take, but I don't think he will take it, but I don't know.
So that's McCarthy in a conversation with Liz Cheney. I think these New York Times reporters made it pretty clear who their source was for this. Liz Cheney, I think, recorded a crap ton of conversations with McCarthy, and maybe she's one of the sources on this McConnell story. But here is the clip the next day, January 11th. That was from January 10th. More audio comes out of Kevin McCarthy now just explicitly attributing responsibility for the Capitol riots on January 6th to Trump himself. And he says that Trump claimed responsibility himself. I'm skeptical about this. I'm skeptical that McCarthy's characterization of his tough talk to Trump is actually how it went down here. But here's this other piece of audio that came out, I believe, this morning.
But let me be very clear to all of you, and I've been very clear to the president. He bears responsibilities for his words and actions. No ifs, ands, or buts. I asked him personally today, does he hold responsibility for what happened? Does he feel bad about what happened? He told me he does have some responsibility for what happened.
Sure. That sounds like
and
him.
he needs to acknowledge that.
Now, just to be clear, that's McCarthy saying the former president
And we could keep it rolling.
acknowledged he bore responsibility for what happened that day. That audio came on January 11th.
But let me be very clear
Oh,
to
I
all
thought there
of
was
you.
more to
and
that.
I-
I thought they might have played because there was a separate clip. It's really not worth it. Of McCarthy responding to these claims earlier in the day, where he's like, "I don't know what you're referring to," feigning ignorance. The reality is that, in regards to the first call that we played, he was caught in a lie. In regards to this other call, he cannot attribute responsibility for January 6th to Donald Trump in the current climate in the Republican Party. The Republican Party, most of their voters feel that there was at least some voter fraud, some evil doings behind the scenes that allowed for Biden to win. And they have the base, the media apparatuses of the Republican Party, the right-wing media, has primed Republican voters to think that January 6th was righteous. So at the time, all of these Republican lawmakers were outraged, kind of afraid for their own lives. There's nothing good or benevolent about their outrage in this instance. They were just scared. And then the dust settled a little bit and they took the temperature of the political climate and they realized that, wait, we have created such a monstrous voter base in terms of the expectations that they have for us as leaders that they actually kind of like this, and we can't go against Donald Trump in this way. So, in private calls to Liz Cheney and to the rest of the caucus, you have Kevin McCarthy assuring the rest of the lawmakers, I have a handle on this. But really, they're just playing the waiting game. They were waiting to see how the Republican base would respond. They did not respond in the way that those lawmakers initially responded, and so they go, "We're going to go with that." And McCarthy now is going to be on Trump's shit list. And he knows it because that audio is as clear as day. And I highly doubt that in regards to that second call where he says that he went to the White House and said, you bear responsibility. And Trump admitted it. That is called, in my opinion, a saving face moment for McCarthy when he tries to go back to his caucus there, because there's just no chance that that's how that went down.
Yeah, Trump never said I bear some responsibility. That's ridiculous. It's interesting, this and the Piers Morgan clip we played yesterday, that the big lie is coming back into focus a little bit, which I find, even if it's belated because these New York Times reporters are saving it for a book release, I'm glad that this is coming back up, because I think it is a pretty alarming thing to have gotten sort of brushed out under the rug and to have let the GOP off the hook on it, because like you said, they are trying to ride both horses, where it's the full on this was stolen, Trump should be the president, versus like the kind of soft version of that, like Tom Cotton, like people have concerns and what about this
Yeah.
and that, and then what we all know is the reality is that there's no evidence for any of this BS, and
they know it too.
exactly, and it's extremely dangerous, and the media, I mean, it says everything about American media that we had to wait until some guys could get a publishing deal out for this to know about this stuff.
Yeah. But again, I mean, like, Liz Cheney, reprehensible in many ways, but I am appreciative of her ability to log information.
Yeah, no.
I mean, come on, like, this has got to be her as the source, I think.
This is whenever like the Never Trump sort of Lincoln Project type Republicans like say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for what I've done." This is what actually is needed instead of apology. It's material support, and
Backstabbing.
as far as like information. Yeah, so like give us the keys to your emails, give us your text messages with all these freaks, and let's see what we can use to damage them.
Yep. I mean, I think, Liz Cheney, we'll see where Trump has endorsed her primary challenger. We'll see where that goes. But I think she's taken this attitude of, if I'm out of here, I'm going down swinging, and I'm going to take some of these suckers down with me. And Kevin McCarthy, he is not strong enough in terms of his political skills to meet this moment.
No.
McConnell's able to weasel out of this stuff pretty easily. But Kevin McCarthy, he is in over his head, and that is a fun sight to see. We're going to take a quick break, but first we have a few sponsors for you. Now, 420 happened on Wednesday, but the 420 sale for Sunset Lake is still ongoing. Sunset Lake, Sebede, and Majority Report are teaming up to turn everyone's favorite stoner holiday into a fundraising opportunity for the Innocence Project, a great organization working to undo the damage of the war on drugs. Here's how it works. Visit Sunset Lake, C, then B, then D.com, starting Wednesday, April 13th. That's past, but it ends on April 24th, so you still have time. Sunset Lake will be offering 40% off smokables like hemp flower, pre-roll, and keef, and every other product will be 30% off. I used the tincture last night. I use it pretty much every night to help me fall asleep, and it's actually done wonders for me. And I'm probably going to be using maybe after the show. This you don't need a promo code, but I'll be going to Sunset Lake to get some of these smokables. No promo code is needed, as I mentioned. Products are already discounted on the website. Sunset Lake CBD will be donating 4.2 D.com to take advantage of these discounts and help Majority Report raise money for a great organization. Sale ends April 24th. Today is the 22nd. So you have through the weekend. It ends at 11:59 p.m. on April 24th. Check it out. And lastly, did you know 93% of life is spent indoors? So when you finally get a moment to soak in the fresh air, you've got to make it count. The warm weather is almost here. It's starting to get... Today's a really nice day here in Brooklyn. And it's making me want to sit outside, go to the park and things like that. And if I had a backyard, I would want to build an outdoor oasis. And that's when I would use Outer. I don't have one, but I wish I did. And hopefully in the end, I will be able to purchase a home and use Outer. Outer is innovative, high-quality outdoor furniture designed to look great and feel great. Create your own backyard resort with everything from teak chairs to fire pit tables. There's like a fire pit. There's nothing better than having a beer with your friends, roasting marshmallows around a fire pit.
Oh, I miss fire pits.
Every outer piece is made from sustainable materials and comes with a patented built-in cover for effortless protection, all for less than you'd pay at a big box store. And Outer furniture comes with best-in-class warranties like 10 years for their chic aluminum line and a 2-week trial with free returns. See the difference at liveouter.com/majority. Plus, for a limited time, get $300 off and free shipping. $300 off. That's a lot of money. That's multiple hundreds. 300.
Three
in
Benjamins.
fact, 3 of those hundreds. This is Outer's best offer anywhere. Only available to podcast listeners and only for a limited time. Get $300 off and free shipping at liveouter, OUTER.com/majority. liveouter.com/majority. Terms and conditions apply. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will be joined by Alex Pareene, the one and only. We are back, and we are joined by the one and only Alex Pareene of the True AP, the AP Substack. Alex, what's up?
How you doing, Emma? How you doing, Matt?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. You are our final guest before Sam returns on Monday. It's been a 2-week span.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Sam's coming back? He didn't
Yeah.
he's not like in the Caribbean somewhere or like whatever tax haven he he registered the LLC that controls the Majority Report.
Yeah, he's snorkeling right now.
Yeah, he's with Richard Branson and Obama. They're doing some windsurfing. I mostly my proclamations about his return to the show are wishful thinking because I'm hoping that I can get my paycheck, which he might have run off with, but we don't really know.
Wait,
so,
you get paid to do this?
I do. I do.
Should I have called Sam about this? Is that something?
If you can get a hold of him.
It's a long fight. Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here, Alex.
Of course,
always appreciate it. So, I mean, what have you been writing about on the AP? What has caught your eye?
What have I been writing about? Well, I have been mainly writing about how censorious PC culture is choking American colleges and infecting corporate workplaces. I wrote about what have I been writing about? I have been writing about.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I have been trying to figure out a way to pick fights in order to get more readership. But I don't like fighting online. So I'm just going to go through. I wrote about Star Trek. Let's see.
All right,
I wrote about
journalism. They know how.
Oh yeah,
right. There we go. Your most recent piece. But regardless, let's just talk about news of the day. I mean, I just wanted to see if you wanted to plug anything.
Oh yeah, sure. Everyone should subscribe to my Substack.
Yes.
So the I guess the last thing I published was about the Taylor Lorenz Washington Post story about the libs of TikTok Twitter account. Taylor did normal reporting in which she found out who was running this account, confirmed who was running this account, and then decided with her editors that the identity of the person running this account was newsworthy. And then wrote a story about why it was newsworthy and what this account was doing. And this account is basically a one cog, and a very important and influential cog in this right-wing information machine that is currently in a sort of organized and hysterical anti-trans moral panic. And it's expanding beyond being anti-transgender. It's expanding to being sort of generally anti-LGBT. And this moral panic is hurting people across the country. And the point of this Twitter account is that it just sort of finds normal people who around the country and then highlights and then sort of finds normal LGBTQ people and then sends the sort of right-wing anger machine after them. And, if it was just a sort of pseudonymous Twitter account doing its own thing, that would be one thing. But this is on Fox News. It's on Tucker's show. It's actually part of this, like, actually organized information institution, that needs, as a person quoted in Taylor's story put it, it needs main characters to focus the anger of its audience on. So anyway, that it became this huge thing. It became a thing about journalistic ethics and journalistic and whether or not it was okay to identify and name the person behind this account in a news story for the Washington Post. And my point, generally, you can read me making it at theap.substack.com. My point was, you can have a debate about the journalistic ethics of it, but it's not worth it having that debate with the people on the right, including libs of TikTok and her followers and her supporters, because they're fundamentally not interested in journalism. They're not interested in reporting. What they're interested in is creating an informational atmosphere in which things like libs of TikTok replace reporting. Like that's their actual end game is for the broadcast, for journalism, for reporting in particular, for reporting to be replaced with whatever Tucker does every night and what this account does every day. So that was my argument.
Yeah, the conflation of doxing and journalism is really frustrating because, like, the Libs of TikTok is literally an account that will take a TikTok from like some teacher and then post what school district that teacher lives in and say, look at this groomer. And
Yeah.
we're supposed to feel sorry for the person who's exposing that person doing that to hundreds of thousands of people.
Who's also working with, according to the reporting, government officials in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
area, and at the
And
very least, working with outlets like the Babylon Bee for money. So this is inherently an interesting and journalistically, it is completely moral in terms of your journalistic ethics to look into the person behind this media farm system for right-wing politicians and major outlets on their on that side of the political spectrum.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's the I sort of make the argument that the doxing argument is designed just to distract from the underlying issue, right? It's a thing to argue about, so you don't have to actually debate the morality of the libs of TikTok account, which is an evil thing. I mean, it's a totally evil thing. And then if you're arguing about doxing and journalistic ethics, you're not arguing about why you are endorsing this evil account. But right, I think Atrios, who was long a pseudonymous blogger, has made this point for like a decade, which is that you can have a pseudonym on the internet, but if you're engaging in public debate to the point where politicians are engaging with you and you have some influence, it's not that it's simply that you have to expect you will be outed. That's just built into it. You don't get to plead. You can try to remain pseudonymous, but once you are in the public doing politics, you have to expect that your identity can't remain secret. That's just a fact of the game, morality aside. But I think to your other point, Emma, I meant to cite one of my favorite essays of all time, which is David Graeber wrote for The Baffler about bullying. And he made this really central point about the purpose of bullying and how it works, which is that like the purpose of bullying in part is to get the person who fights back in trouble. When they fight back, you go to the authority figures and say, look, and then the authority figures will say, both of you calm down. And that's how it works across so many different parts of life. And that's what libs of TikTok is doing. It's been a bully for quite some time and got a lot of success and attention being a bully, and then now it's pulling that move. It's saying I'm the victim.
Right. And I mean, let's turn a little bit to some of the grooming allegations and the anti-gay bills across the country, because this came across my radar this morning. This is number 4 on the sound sheet, Matt. It's not sound, but this is a screenshot from, I believe, the Politico newsletter here. And it's so Politico Playbook, there's reporting that Democratic strategists here saw that, and I'm not sure if you saw this, Alex, the speech from Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow, that was very rousing on how responding to a Republican colleague of hers calling her a groomer in a fundraising email. And McMorrow, we covered it on the show. It was excellent. But apparently this is what has, quote, triggered a conversation around Democratic strategists about whether it's a model for how the party can hit back on culture war issues. There's a sense that the right has overreached on issues like abortion and LGBTQ rights, and that in doing so, they've provided Dems with an opening in an otherwise grim midterm cycle. Even Democrats who have long argued that the party should avoid hotly partisan cultural issues altogether or focus its energy on pocketbook issues are starting to see the outlines of a new approach using McMorrow's playbook. James Carville apparently, still in Democratic circles. I'm not exactly sure what his position on this is, but people are still listening to him about how, quote, wokeness is a problem for Democrats. But they find this approach to be a bit more palatable. Just the idea, though, Matt, or not Matt, the idea, Alex, that Democrats were disengaging from this fight until they saw a viral speech from a state senator on Twitter going after Republicans, calling her a groomer for supporting gay people. Like,
Yeah.
no, this is the most obvious layup ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes to show how out of touch and cloistered the party leaders are, and I mean, you can say that about any number of things, but um, in this case, I think it goes to show how out of touch they are, because for them, culture war stuff is TV segments and not real life, and they don't understand that the culture war as it plays out on the ground is teachers being hounded out of their jobs. It's trans kids being denied healthcare and worse. They actually, for them, it's TV segments. Like, that's how they view the world, is in TV news segments. And so this issue didn't become real to them until they saw a viral video about it.
Yeah, until they saw a politician doing it in Michigan, where they perceive as like, oh, we can. There are some gains to be made here. We have a decent suburban donor base in Michigan.
Exactly.
And, so.
No, that's exactly right. And it wasn't. And I mean, boy, I think I wrote last year when the conservatives were melting down about canceling Dr. Seuss. I think I wrote a thing arguing that, like, the actual canny strategy would be to continue to make the right melt down about completely meaningless cultural things, because as long as they were doing that, they weren't causing actual material harm to, like, trans people. And they dropped the ball on that one. I have to say, no one took my advice. But I do think it's like, for a lot of Democrats, until it becomes real in the sense of this viral video, there's not very much difference to them between conservatives melting down about Dr. Seuss and conservatives melting down about actual living LGBT teachers and trans kids. And I think what was really, I read the same Playbook newsletter, and what was sort of confounding about it was there was a quote in it that was like, well, it has turned out from polling that these issues become more salient and real to voters if you personalize it. And it's like, yeah, because these are people, because we're talking about people. That's what personalizing means. We're talking about people.
The idea that they needed a media moment to understand that these bills that are going after teachers' unions, all in one, they're trying to undercut teachers and make it more easy to get teachers fired, weeding them out, if they're gay, if they talk about racism, etc. By the same token, they are also going after gay kids, trans kids, trying to marginalize them as well. The idea that you need a politician, a member of your party, making a rousing speech on the Senate floor to grapple with the millions and millions of people who are obviously materially affected by legislation. Like, why do we have to tell Democratic consultants that there are human beings affected by legislation? I mean,
Yeah.
what an embarrassment of a party class. And these people make a ton of decisions in terms of electoral strategy. Like, this is there's a whole class of people in leftist Twitter sphere that say the Democrats should not focus on cultural issues or whatever. But this was handed to them on a platter of something that they could run on as an obvious immoral and cruel way that the Republican Party was conducting itself on a state by state basis. And yet they're only mounting a strategy to combat this right now.
Well, look, culture, arguments about the culture war are always really frustrating because they encompass so many really incompatible things. But the purposes of a lot of this legislation is just to destroy the public school system. And that's just it's just a simple, long-time oligarchic goal that the ultra wealthy right has had forever. And if you can't put the argument in those terms, you're just giving up so much. If you're saying, if you are just handing to the right, you're handing them the issue. If you do as many Democrats wanted to do, and I've talked about this with you and Sam after the Virginia election, when they treated these sort of hysterical panics as legitimate parental anxiety. What about the schools? We've really screwed up on the schools. That's what was motivated the parents. If you can't see it in these terms and put it to the voters in these terms. This is a long-standing, well-funded, organized national campaign to undermine and ultimately destroy American public schools. Like, we have evidence for it. They are in writing saying it, and this is how they're doing it. You don't deserve, I mean, you really don't deserve to win if you can't put it in those terms, because people,
I was just gonna say, Chris Rufo, who's been stoking the CRT stuff, had a tweet this week about how it was a compilation of headlines, and he's saying, "Look at all this abuse from public schools," and it's like, bro, there's abuse at private schools too. Like
what about Catholic schools?
Exactly. Like you saying public schools really explains what the goal is.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, and that's the thing, is like, they're actually, well, I guess that's really the really frustrating thing about this, that the right is not subtle. They're not like actually good at hiding this stuff, like, because they celebrate every time they win. And I think it's really clear. My God, there were some surveys. There was I forget, maybe it was Inside Higher Ed, or maybe it was another education publication this week. But there are surveys of American public schools teachers, and a lot of the problem is money, and a lot of the problem is COVID. But over the last few years, they're miserable. They've been polling them. They hate their jobs and they're miserable. And if you wanted to kill schools, a great way to do it would be to make all the teachers quit and make it hard to replace them.
Yep, you can drive down wages in that way as well, and you also can ensure that it's a more efficient farm system for the kinds of culture warriors that they want on their side.
Yeah, I mean,
for
yeah,
when
what
they
they
grow
want,
up.
right? Like, and what the right wants is basically completely voucherized,
Yes.
education. So you can send your kid to a religious school, or you can send your kid to a school that is making a private corporation money to operate. And it's a really simple goal. And again, the fact that Democrats are incapable of putting it in those simple terms because they think this is a cultural thing is infuriating.
Well, they are unable to see it in those terms because there are a ton of Democrats that are funded and closely intertwined by charter schools. School choice is very popular in some blue cities even. I mean, Cory Booker comes to mind as a champion of that kind of stuff. But they are disarmed from making that kind of argument or looking at it more deeply because they don't really see that much of a problem with it.
What's funny is that I think, like, in the abstract, school choice like polls well, and it's a big like cover for segregation, basically.
Yeah.
But there was something really funny in the Trump administration where Betsy DeVos was in charge of the Department of Education, and all of a sudden, after years of Democrats being told to be pro-charter, like, they just sort of naturally and organically were like, we hate the privatization of education under the cover of charters. We hate it. And you could see all of these Democratic politicians and pro-charter liberal pundits being like, I mean, we don't like DeVos either, but don't go too far, guys. Like,
Yeah.
it suddenly became this thing where Democrats, for like the first time in my adult life, were defending public education. And honestly, they couldn't wait to stop. Once Trump was done, they just couldn't wait to stop. It's really depressing.
Well, that brings us to another topic where it's, Biden, Democrats, even when they're handed a something that should be a victory on their own political and moral terms, or the ones that they give to their voters, which is, we take COVID seriously. The right wing does not. That's a huge part of why Biden won, was because of Donald Trump's incompetence and brutality when it came to COVID. Now, there was a Trump appointed judge who struck down a mask mandate earlier this week on public transit, planes, trains, buses, etc. Out of nowhere, the Biden administration did not seem to be prepared for this kind of ruling. Biden was asked about it on some tarmac, and he said, well, it's up to the airlines. It's up to them. It's up to them to wear a mask, as opposed to taking this opportunity to say, no, they're extremists. What if you're immunocompromised? Do you feel comfortable? And you look at the polling, a majority of Americans want mask mandates on these closed planes, for example, if they need to go somewhere via travel. And only after saying, I'm going to defer to the CDC, 24 hours later, Biden says they're going to appeal it. But like, there's still a sense, and reporting to this effect, that they're not that invested in challenging this, because for the same reason that Biden a few months ago during the State of the Union was celebrating COVID being over, let's all go maskless, and then a few lawmakers got COVID, by the way. Like, the they do not, they want to will the country past COVID, and they're terrified of the perception, even though they're supposed to be the party that, quote, listens to science.
This is where the if your politics is purely about a cringing fear of backlash, like, and that's where we're at. Like, this illustrates that to a T, because you will let that fear paralyze you even if there's no evidence of backlash. As you say, masks have become a huge topic of argument on Twitter and on the right, and they lead to viral video moments. The polling has always been that most Americans think it just makes sense to wear masks indoors. That the polling's been consistent on that up until around when Democrats started abandoning that principle. But I think masks, the argument over the utility of masks aside, what I found very worrying about that moment where it seemed like the White House was just going to allow this decision to stand. So Matt Iglesias was sort of making the case, and he was not alone. He was not alone, but Matt Iglesias was like, well, it seems like this lets the White House not have to make this decision they didn't want to make, which would have pissed everyone off anyway. So they should just be fine with it. Like, if the argument was like, well, it leads to a perfectly good political conclusion. So I don't understand why everyone's upset. But like, if a unqualified judge is trying to take the authority of the executive branch to do basic public health stuff and setting a precedent that it can't, and the White House doesn't do anything about it because it was too paralyzed with indecision to know what its own position on masking was, well, that's either a political win or a red flag for the entire constitutional order. It's like one of the two.
Yeah.
And I think
or a red flag for the Biden administration's ability to lead. I mean, like, that is the definition of leading from behind. He is the deferral president. I'm going to defer to this expert. I can't do student loan debt because I'm still waiting on a memo for 12 months from a panel that I put together on this. Like, it's just this complete outsourcing of politics to experts that are invisible to the public. And you're expecting that you're going to get a win on that's going to look like leading when it seems like bureaucrats are making every decision for you. I mean, and it's bearing out in the polling. Biden does not look like a leader when he's constantly saying, I'm going to make sure that this panel does this, etc. Like, the public does not respond to that whatsoever.
You're better off as a politician just saying, we're going to do this, and then not doing it than you are doing the reverse. And I think that's borne out over and over again through Trump versus Biden. The difference between we're just going to do this and then you don't do it. Like, that's build the wall. We're going to build a wall. And then no, you don't have the ability to do that. You're not going to do it. Just say you're going to do it. People will like it. But I think if, our left of center party is really allergic to that kind of politics. I think if you live in a deep blue state, you are probably really familiar with this. They will come up with excuses why they can't do popular things. Here's why we can't legalize marijuana for 10 years until Andrew Cuomo finally does it to distract from scandal. Here's why we, I guess finally we'll pass congestion pricing, but here's why it's going to take us 4 years to do a study into whether or not we'll figure out how to implement it. It's just like our Democratic Party is often unwilling to explain why they can't or won't do things, and so just hides behind these bureaucratic or institutional challenges that they could go right past if they really wanted to.
Yeah, but that's the point, is that they're a lot more comfortable. You mentioned the blue state thing. If there aren't already internal obstacles or they're not presenting them, someone like Andrew Cuomo will just create them
They'll create them,
with
exactly.
the
Yeah.
IDC.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what Biden's doing with student debt. I mean, look, I'm happy that he has deferred and that Psaki announced at the Pod Save America live show, which it's beyond parody, that they're going to extend it again, the
Yeah.
moratorium on paying back student loans. But what do you think the end game is here? Because I think everybody's happy that there's still this pause, but they have to reach a conclusion eventually on how much student debt they're going to cancel, and if they're going to. I mean, I hope. Can you imagine if they don't do it in the end?
I mean, I don't know if they have to reach a conclusion. I think they're banking on not ever reaching a conclusion. I think like their ideal policy state is like, no one's mad at us for canceling debt. No one's mad at us for making them pay student loans. Like, I think if they could keep this up forever, they would. And there's an understanding in Washington among people who actually know the issue, not among like, congressmen, but among people who actually understand the issue. There's an understanding that a lot of this debt's never going to get paid no matter what you do. You can legally say we're starting payments again, but they already understand they're going to have to eat a huge, huge ton of this debt in the end. And so, then it becomes a question of, with the understanding that we're not ever going to see a lot of this money anyway, and it was probably a mistake to put people in this much debt. Should we cancel it? Should we, figure out a income level to cancel it out? Or should we set up a recurring can kicking scenario that can last forever? And I think like current policy making is always going to choose the recurring can kicking scenario.
But the thing is we have no guarantee of who's going to be president come 2024.
Oh, yeah.
They have to take an opportunity to do something that's broad. Tiering it by income levels is bad. They need to just do a broad cancellation. Biden promised on the campaign trail he'd do 10,000, which is hilariously low. But say he ends up doing 50,000. I think that's one of the better case scenarios that we can think of. I don't see him going above that. You can't tier that. That is just like another. If that's something that's being considered and they end up doing that, that's another example of Democrats over-wonking themselves as opposed to just giving a broad-based policy that affects everyone equally.
I think a few weeks ago, I would have predicted exactly as you say that maybe shortly before the election, shortly before the midterms, Biden does a $50,000 debt forgiveness. I think that would have been, and I think people in his inner circle are still pushing for something like that. The only reason I'm skeptical now that he will do that, even though it's obviously would be politically helpful, is people are starting to toss out the argument that student debt forgiveness would worsen inflation, which is this very, very White House inner circle targeted, like skittish 90s Democrat Larry Summers argument designed to sabotage helping even the smallest number of people. And I think once that argument's out in the wild, I hope I'm wrong. But once that argument's out in the wild, it seems to me a sign that like people are trying to stop even the basest amount of forgiveness from happening.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, I'm still standing by 50,000 is the best case scenario. We can see. I mean, for a while I thought that the Clyburn pressure, the Lindsey Graham support for J. Michelle Childs as opposed to Ketanji Brown Jackson was going to win out, and I was wrong about that. We could see. But there are certainly forces that seem to be winning more battles over time within the Biden administration who are more ideologically inclined with the old guard of the Democratic Party, as opposed to it seemed more willing to listen to new voices at the start of his presidency.
I mean, it's funny. I always would sort of say the only sort of thing in Joe Biden's favor was that he had a really good economic team when he was vice president. It was better than Barack Obama's, honestly. His economic brain trust was much more, much more, not exactly left wing, but, much more for the common people than Obama's awful team. And so I knew there were voices in the administration that were on that side, but, the political voices will win out a lot of these times because just the instincts of these guys who, their political ideas were formed in the 70s and 80s, and there's just no getting around that. Even if they are getting good advice, there's no getting around a mind shaped by the politics of the 70s and 80s.
Yep, absolutely. Lastly, I wanted to touch on this with you because I saw you were tweeting about the Elon Musk potential Twitter takeover. I mean, let's have some fun. It's Friday, right? Although
I was hoping you were going to ask me about the Tesla that crashed into the jet. Did you see that one?
Well, don't worry. Matt has that
have
teed
that.
up. Yeah,
Okay,
Matt has
good.
that teed up. All right, so this is a nice appetizer to our Elon Musk discussion. He continues to experiment with self-driving cars, even though it seems like all technological experts in this field say that the technology is far away. I mean, Tesla's literally killed people trying
Yes.
this technology out. But the board shareholders find this kind of stuff really sexy. It's like the endless discussion about lab meat that we're eventually going to create, even though that technology is really far away as well. But it's sexy for venture capitalists, and I'm sure that this is the kind of thing that Elon Musk proselytizes to the shareholders and at board meetings. Do we have this here?
Yeah, so I'm going to put up Alex's tweet first, and I'll find the actual video. But I do think it is an interesting little conspiracy theory to try to push a little bit that Twitter is fighting back by training its algorithms on Tesla.
On anti-Tesla tweets.
Yeah, because it says based on your retweets, and then the caption is, "Lol, someone tried to summon their Tesla via autopilot at an aviation trade show, and it crashed into a $3 million jet." Let me I gotta find this the actual video here.
But regardless, I mean that's
Well, look, yeah, we
it's
could talk
very
about
very Elon Musk. Yeah.
We could talk about the attempted Twitter takeover, but like, yeah, the fact about self-driving cars is that the people working on them were lying to us for years and years about how close they are.
Mhm.
And like, actually, it is true now that the people working on them are suddenly much more honest that they are a long ways away. But that is a terrible thing. I've written about this too on the ap.substack.com. The terrible thing about Tesla is that despite actual experts in the field saying actual self-driving cars are many years away, Tesla is currently marketing features that it claims are self-driving cars and allowing them to be used on city streets where you and your children are walking and driving right now.
Yeah.
And yes, they have caused accidents. They're not ready for prime time. Regulators are completely asleep at the wheel, to use an, I guess, stupidly apt metaphor.
It's Theranos. This is like, I mean, it is it's fraudulent,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
yeah,
they're trying to get more money into Tesla by overstating how far along this technology is, and people are and they're duping regulators with like the sexy, I keep saying that word. I don't mean to apply it to anything related to Elon Musk, but like the glossy, would you rather,
Yeah.
the sheen of the tech industry.
Yeah, and it's
that's
I mean
applied to regular, blood testing in that instance. This is cars in this instance.
it's 100%. It's 100%. Well, I mean, it's aimed at the consumer because there's a bunch of there's a bunch of Tesla stands who I hear from regularly. It's aimed at the consumer, but it's definitely also aimed at boomer politicians in both parties who
Mhm.
are easily seduced by anyone claiming that tech can do anything. And I think once you notice this, you see it everywhere. But boomer politicians, Democrats, Republicans, love to hear that someone has invented a new technology that will solve a problem that they don't want to solve with politics. And so all you need to do to get their money and attention and support is say, I have a technology that means you don't have to do something hard.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, great. All right. So we don't need to worry about traffic congestion. We don't need to worry about cars. We don't need to worry about transit policy, because your magic self-driving cars that are electric will solve all of this. They're all right. Great. I'm on board.
We have the
We have
Tesla
the
car.
video.
Let's see, the video is so funny. There it goes. Self-driving.
Just trying to find my owner.
Oh my god, it totally spun around.
Just looking for my my spot. The guy's walking at the end. Like, what are they?
Here?
They're like, yeah. Should we do something about this?
That's amazing.
That technology, completely unregulated, could be on the streets of your city right now.
But the innovation. I mean, but
Yeah.
those Teslas, they're pretty.
I mean, the joke every time, like, there was this great video of another company's automated braking system stopping for these like test dummies of children on a street, and the Tesla just blowing right through the children test dummies.
Oh my
And then the joke is always like, well, the Tesla engineers will learn from this data. So there you go. More data for their engineers to learn from.
I mean, that's actually a really good lesson about, and you've already alluded to it, about like capitalism and just like how like we're all test subjects that are leading to their product being more valuable by us. Like, take a risk jaywalking, you're actually helping Tesla
Yes,
learn how to
exactly.
not run over people in the future. Like, your sacrifice will go into the data bank of these robots, and hopefully they'll hit less people in the future.
You know what they
Exactly.
say, move fast and break things in the tech industry. Move fast or drive fast and break people.
Yeah.
That's what
right.
Elon Musk's mantra is. But like, do you think this Twitter bit is real? It seems like a complete
Well-
posturing so he can pump and dump.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it could be a pump and, or like there's like a version of a pump and dump he does where he like drives the price down first. It definitely very much could be that. I guess I think he's like not particularly liquid, supposedly, like and all of his money's in stock. If he's lining up financing, I think you would be insane if you were a bank or an investor. You'd be insane to go in on this with him. So he could certainly do it if he could line up financing for it, but I think it's mainly just like another one of his dumb, distracting jokes, and that will lead to him just sort of making a larger paper fortune for himself.
I mean, it's insane given all the stuff that's come out of him about the Fremont factory and just incredible racism. Like literally segregationist Klan style culture that they had going on there, and then the monkey brains being rotted by Elon's attempts at a neural link.
Yeah. Another just like ridiculous thing that tricks boomers into thinking this technology that you saw in Back to the Future or something is about to hit the streets.
It is like he's like a shark, like that thing where the sharks have to move forward. Like, it's like you got to have something else for them to talk about, because
I absolutely I think that's actually an actual strategy of his, is to always have a new thing to announce, that and to have everyone always spending their time being like, is he serious? Does he mean it?
Yeah. Can he actually do that?
Can he actually do that? And it's always to be like one step ahead of, the lawsuits, the regulators, and the people to whom he's indebted, probably.
Right. Well, Alex, can't thank you enough for joining us today. Always appreciate your insights, and people should definitely check out the AP, the real one, the
real
only
one.
true AP, Alex Pareene newsletter, Substack, and also check out Alex's work at the New Republic as well.
And the politics of everything.
And the
Politics of everything. My podcast with Laura Marsh at the New Republic. All right, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Matt. It was fun.
Yeah, so much fun. Thanks so much, Alex. All right, with that, folks, we will head into the fun half. But first, Matt, what's happening on Left Reckoning?
On Sunday, for Left Reckoning patrons, we'll be having Brian Box Brown, who previously appeared on Left Reckoning, give us an update over marijuana policy, particularly in New York, but across the country. And so we're going to be doing another one of those, talking about New Jersey, New York, and a few other issues of pop policy, particularly where it intersects with labor. So check out that patreon.com/leftreckoning this Sunday.
Do it. All right, we'll be taking your calls, reading your IM 646-257-3920. See you in the fun.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it.
Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's.
Stop talking for a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello? Is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports.
We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians.
They're so stupid, though.
Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-3501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
654 $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes with satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about
Yeah.
you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
We are back. We are back. Illuminati kids. I forget the guest, but there was an interview a bit back that theorized Musk is following the early history of the car, where pedestrians had to adapt to the dangers of auto traffic rather than restrictions being placed on the manufacturers and planners. So shortcomings in self-driving tech will define how we are allowed to move around before anyone says the tech has to change. It's deeply depressing.
Yeah, I mean,
and tracks.
In a certain sense, that's how we allow technology. This is why we did a talk with Jathan Sadowski on Left Reckoning about Luddism and why Luddism is good and misunderstood historically. But the basic impulse of even 400 years ago versus what modern Luddism would be, we have the right to look at technology as a society and decide if we're going to accept its externalities and the impact that it has on us. And the automobile is maybe the main example of cities have been ruined to accommodate people's drive time commutes to suburbia. And like New York's like downtown is still sort of intact, but you look at a place like Kansas City, I mean, there's so many that you look at what their downtowns look like, 100 years ago, and then the 40s,
St.
50s,
Louis,
60s, 70s.
is that a good example?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's unless cities are too new, they probably were hollowed out by the automobile.
Yeah.
And
Houston's an example of a city like built for the automobile that sucks anyway.
And it's an environmental disaster on top
Yeah.
of it, in like me not liking it aesthetically. It's a big hurdle for energy use.
Train boy, self-driving cars exist. They're called buses and they rule.
Well,
I mean, there's a bus
a driver
driver,
there,
but here
train
ya.
boy.
Truck Nuts 420 because of Elizabeth Holmes' excellent excellent Elizabeth Holmes impression. I started to watch The Dropout. Now I can't get that damned Alabama song out of my head. The Dropout is really good, really good. I don't know if you've watched it yet. It's the Amanda Seyfried, William H. Macy show on Theranos.
Oh,
It's on
interesting.
Hulu. It's really funny, and like Michael Showalter directed it. The guy
Oh,
who
that's
did
funny.
so he has like he gets their weird, awkward nerdiness right.
Why don't we have Michael Showalter on this show to talk about it? Sam literally had an awkward run-in with him in the past couple of months.
I would love to. Are you
Yeah,
kidding
we
me?
need to get
I mean,
Bradley. Let's get on that.
I would love to
Sam
have
do
Michael
that.
Showalter on because I have many questions too. Also about us. What's the name of that movie show? Damn it, Summer.
Wet Hot American
Wet
Summer.
Hot American Summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Tojo's bald head, TeslaDeaths.com for all the deaths caused by that shitty car. Yeah. Jules Winfield, new. The Florida Department of Health just issued guidance telling doctors to medically detransition all transgender youth and ban them from social transition treatment, including name, pronoun, and clothing changes. They want trans kids to die. I keep saying that, and we have to be clear about that.
Yep.
Nug Wrangler, requesting a segment of just regular callers like Kowalski, Raygun, and John from San Antonio, Dave from Jamaica, etc., chatting it up. Sounds like it could even be a show on the new Majority Report Plus streaming platform. Yeah, we'll get on that. Tom Lowe Fink, happy Cashew Wall Day, folks. Cashew Wall Friday, folks. Gotcha. Close. Also, happy belated birthday, Emma. Hope everyone's doing okay. You may have seen on Twitter people expressing their admiration for Jeremy Corbyn, a sentiment I share. Here in Britain, many of the people who long for more civility in politics were the very same that did their best to make Corbyn look like the Antichrist. As long as Financial Times columnists' stock portfolios are okay, then the poor can make do with that. Yay, decorum. Zephe, Emma, it's okay you admit you just don't know how to drive. I don't get it.
I don't know either.
I used to love driving back in the day, but I sold my car when I moved to the city.
Same. Well, I gave it to my brother. But I used to love driving and just drive pointlessly for no reason. Just I'm bored in Fargo.
Me too. Yeah.
Also there's a message in the chat that I just feel like it's been posted a couple times, so address it. Matt Leck, per IRS records, 51% of homeless support / soup kitchens are private secular, 14% government, only 31% religious. 31% is a lot. And like we said, it wasn't to say like the religion is doing the good thing there. It's that it helps people, and that's why people like it.
Yeah.
So I'm not, and 31% again is like, that's a lot.
And in the absence of it being 100% state funded and actually like invested in by our government, these institutions are going to fill vacuums, and I think casting them aside en masse is an arrogant view that does not, I think, hold water when you look at the different specifics of communities.
Like I would like to expand services for people like that, like soup kitchens, massively. Like in COVID, we started doing it where it was ready meals for people, where you could go pick up meals at a school during like the summer break or whatever. Like have the kitchens working. Like we should be doing that sort of stuff. Secularly, I agree. I think that'd be even better. But 31% is a lot. There's people being fed. I'm not quite sure what. There's such a sensitivity among anti-theists to this stuff that like it really gets in the way of what the actual point was.
I mean, frankly, it's childish. Like that was I was 13 watching Religious and Bill Maher and being like, yeah, like this institution sucks. But you grow up and you realize like things are a little complicated, and largely it's the absence of any robust social safety net that allows, these institutions have value for some people, and there doesn't mean that doesn't have a ton of negative value for, say, gay kids or trans kids, depending on the church, depending on the religious institution. But I mean,
It's just a dumb point of attack. This is why we have Marxism. Don't focus on the cultural stuff. You focus on the structural economic stuff. It's simple.
Yep. A square. Pareene hit all points today. Would add that Dems are not interested in helping one of the few strongest unions in the U.S. Like Obama, they did not think they need to nurture, expand, and offer full support to teachers' unions or any other unions. Misguided strategy and short-sighted. Emma, Matt, and Brandon, you are all doing such a fantastic job. I think you meant Bradley, but Brandon too. These shows, these 2 weeks did not miss a beat. Would use a football metaphor for you, Emma, but I know football. I don't know football, so I'll go with basketball. That I know you are the sixth man, and after all these 2 weeks, Sam will have to pay big dough in your contract negotiation because you could be a starter anytime.
It's like Jordan Poole.
Yeah, the ultimate sixth man I think of is when Lamar Odom had that amazing season for the Lakers.
He was coming off the bench?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. I kind of checked out, I'll be honest, for the last couple of Kobe finals.
Yeah, they won the finals. Yeah, that time. And then what year, Bradley, did J.R. Smith win sixth man? You can talk. Damn, we'll look it up. But
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, thank you, A Square. Yeah,
we can, but they can't.
Oh, they can't. All right, never mind. But he did, right? Am I remembering
He won it,
that
yeah.
correctly?
I'm not
yeah.
sure if it was for Cavs or.
It was, no, yeah. J.R. Smith, that was a fun time. He won in 2013 for the Knicks, right? Yeah, that was a fun season. Still, I was thinking a little bit about Carmelo Anthony the other day and how like the New York media tore him apart despite all he did for.
It's when he scored like 60 or something.
Yeah, like Carmelo Anthony was. The idea that any Knicks fans have any ill will towards him is mind-blowing to me. But
I mean, it's the best the Knicks have been since Allen Houston.
It's just like it is really embarrassing. Like these are the same people that think quarterback wins equal quarterback stats, right? And they don't put into context. Or the same people that before LeBron won a ring were like, yeah, he's overrated. There's just you have to have a team around you. You have to have a team around you. And then he got a team around him, and those same people were like, oh, he left Cleveland to start super teams. What a loser. Can't stand some sports fans. Anyway, let's do the Starbucks union thing. Starbucks is scared out of their minds. Out of their minds. We have 2 clips of this, but this was a call with Starbucks managers. Howard Schultz, this is his 3rd time back with Starbucks. They bring him in when they, they're in crisis and they perceive this mass unionization push as a crisis. Over 200 Starbucks locations have filed paperwork to unionize. 24 have been successful. 2 of those 2 have not been successful. So that's 24 out of 26. And then multiply it to all these other unionization filings and efforts throughout other Starbucks. I think the board and the rest of the executives at Starbucks are doing the math. That's going to happen a lot more frequently than it doesn't in terms of Starbucks unionization efforts at different locations being successful. So here's Howard Schultz talking about these unionization efforts, in which he refers to union organizing as a, quote, outside force. And enlisting managers at these different locations to help him in union busting.
That's the
essentially
way they look at you, the workers, is an outside enemy.
But the anti-union lawyers, the union busting lawyers that they hire from outside firms, they're part of the family, I guess.
Part of the family, yeah.
Right.
Stepbrothers.
We've always managed to overcome the obstacles, the challenges. The resiliency of the company is directly related to the leadership that you have provided. But the challenges right now are real and they're in front of us. And the challenges are multiple. The pandemic, a post-pandemic customer, the relationship we have with our customers, competitive threats, and now a new outside force that's trying desperately to disrupt our company. Well, I believe in Starbucks more than ever because I believe in all of you. My faith and confidence in the future of Starbucks is based on my faith and confidence in you.
Management.
Not some outside force that's going to dictate or disrupt what we are and who we are and what we do.
It's going to dictate and disrupt the bonuses for executives, except probably it won't. We'll just have to raise the price of a venti coffee by 10 cents.
Yeah, you use the word like dictate. I'll just say if there's anyone dictating anything at a workplace, it should be the workers, and that's good dictation. Oh no, the second clip it looked like might have
it disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, there's a whole thread. More Perfect Union is the account to follow for to some of these union fights. They've been on top of it, and I know one of the people who started that organization, former Bernie staffer. Good people. Check out their work. But it is amazing to see Howard Schultz squirming. It seems to be deployed only to fight this. I mean, he left the company for a while and he's back, and I think they said this is your mission. You've got to tamp this down.
It's very strange. Like when you look at how much CEOs are paid and what their supposed jobs are, like this guy ran for president. He was a complete bust, just an embarrassment.
Yeah.
Like zero sort of competence exhibited there. And then this, it's like, yeah, he's come back in, he's tapped back to talk, and he starts talking about like sharing blankets on the way to Auschwitz last time. And yeah, then he called it a sort of like assault. And now that, I mean, this is what they got. This is what one of the most rich, like the richest company in the world, one of the richest companies in the world can bring to bear. It's like, it's almost a surprise that like there's not a better glass that they can break for something to fight this fire.
Prairie Fire Kowalski. Howdy, Emma, Matt, and Bradley. We got 1.5 inches of rain last night at the farm. Over an inch on the ground. We farm. It ain't much, but the hell of no moisture since November. The dust, wind, and fire and plants staying dormant is over for now. The grass is now green and trees are blooming. Let's go humidity and warm weather. Sun's out, guns out. Leftist poggers also plant victory gardens. Yes, I was looking out my window at the little buds on the trees, getting really excited. I love the warm weather more, although I walk to work and it's going to be some sweaty days here at the office in the summer, but for the most part I definitely prefer it to the cold. Calling from a 614 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 614? 614. Going once. Going twice. Bye-bye. Calling from a 518 number. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Emma, Matt, and Bradley. This is Luke. How you doing?
Hey, Luke. Where are you calling from?
Luke from Oneonta. Sorry.
Ah, you're upstate.
Yes. We actually just 3 days ago had a massive snowstorm, and people are still without power.
Yeah. Geez, I'm so sorry. Do you have power? I know Oneonta's a little. It's more rural, more spread out.
You could say that. Yes, it is. I do have power. Everybody I know, I think 95% are back, so we're getting pretty close. But thank you for asking. I have two quick questions, if that's okay, or comments. One, I guess we'll start off with Fun Day. How are you, everybody in studio? How are you guys feeling about the Buffalo Bills this season?
Me? Okay. Well, maybe you might not want to hear this. I'm a little frustrated that their receiving core is very overrated. I think that they could do more to help Josh Allen out. I think people don't realize how much he does. I think he was the best quarterback in the league last year. So that's the upside. Mahomes, I think, played a little bit worse than him last year and has more to work with. But I think they could do a little bit more to help him. They need they need another difference maker on defense. I just think overall, I guess I forgot Von Miller signed with them, right? So that'll be
Yeah.
nice. But I just, there are more. I could list a few rosters I think that are more talented than them. Although I don't know. I think they could go to the AFC Championship this year. I have to think about it a little bit more. But at least in the NFC, like the 49ers have a way more talented roster in my opinion than the Bills, but it's a quarterback league. The Bills are going to be a better team next year because of Josh Allen versus, you know, Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo. So they're a really good team, but I just think they're a little too predicated on Josh Allen doing everything for them. I don't know how sustainable that is. You see, that's why Aaron Rodgers gets eliminated early in the postseason, because you can be an amazing quarterback, but you have to have support around you. And when you're actually playing talented teams in single elimination, it's just quarterback play on an average to above average roster doesn't cut it.
Well, that's fair. I guess I'll temper my hopes and expectations. My second thing, if I may, is I don't know if you folks have seen it, but Lance from oh dear,
The
can't think of where he's
The
from.
Surfs.
The Surfs had
Yeah.
a phenomenal kind of point by point breakdown of a and I don't want to cause drama, but a Breaking Points episode about the libs of TikToks. Have you guys seen that episode?
I have not. No.
He does a really good job and really really kind of pokes a hole in something that I've found myself, at least during the primary, thinking more and more about the idea of the possibility of working with folks that were like libertarian to end wars and things like that. But as more and more of this stuff comes out, especially watching folks like Sagar and Jetty, who's supposedly the poster child of this right-wing populism.
Yep.
And really, it really kills me because his co-host really did not push back against anything, and her argument was that, well, libs are just mad this is happening to them, and totally discounting the cruelty and the hatred being displayed towards an entire community of human beings, the trans community as well as others. And I think Alex had it exactly right that this is part of a big, huge strategy, not only to be hateful but to attack our public schools.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know if I can comment on the particular segment because I haven't seen it, but your characterization of it sounds fair and accurate based on my understanding. The
Yeah, that adheres to the pattern, shall we say?
right, and frankly, you know, the seems like their audience trends more right wing just from the way I've seen from the outside. I'm not a subscriber and I've really not seen much of the content, but that they're that's why I was critical of the over focus on AOC, for example, from that camp, which
Right.
is you know, we just saw that Christian Smalls tweeted out that AOC is going to be joining the Amazon rally alongside Bernie Sanders on Sunday in Staten Island. She seems to have corrected what she clearly, because she's joining now, felt like was an effort or error, rather, oversight on her part. And so that's why you are critical, but you don't focus on it and you are open to people growing, etc., as opposed to, frankly, I think jumping on it in order to appeal to a right-wing audience that doesn't really care what the substance of the critique is, as epitomized by the fact that Tucker Carlson jumped on it. And I think in large part due to certain leftist hosts making it more on that guy's kind of radar, right? Which is why I think it's problematic. They don't really care about the substance of the critique. They just want the critique.
Yeah, it seems kind of like own the libs is the way into the hearts, and it's not a long-term strategy. All it's going to do is fracture whatever spectrum of the left that we've got going. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time, folks. Thank you so much. All three of you have done an awesome job in Sam's absence, and Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks so much, Luke.
I would just recommend Mint Press News's profile of Sagar and Jetty. I mean, the idea that this guy's put forward as some sort of anti-war voice, given his pedigree and his actual, like, frankly, positions when you look a little bit deeper, is ridiculous.
It's
And-
as anti-war as Tucker Carlson is.
right. I mean, yes, exactly. Like, he's a little Tucker boy. That's what that's what Sagar is.
Yeah. Calling from a 404 area code. Who's this? Where you calling from? 404?
404.
404. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. Do I hear you, 404? Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Mhm.
Who is this?
I'm Terry from Georgia, but originally from Louisiana.
Terry from Georgia. What's on your mind?
Well, technically, from Louisiana, but live in Georgia.
Okay, Terry from
Um,
Louisiana. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to give a little tip of help for Nina Turner and the rest of progressives.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to say that maybe during rallies, I think to really connect to the people, I think they should really bring a yes, bring a projector, maybe have a photos of Medicare for all, and really maybe more slides of them, and also about ideas to save the planet, climate change.
Okay.
And yes, and I really think this will really help them, show visuals of them, and really understand, rather than just really just talking about it, because we need an easier concept, and at this point we need all ideas that could really be easier for them and really connect to
More
them.
easily digestible, in a more simple format, bringing people together, that kind of thing.
Yes, because obviously I think this could be our final chance to really save this planet, and because obviously for too long we've been forgotten, and I really want Nita and the progressives to really win, and
Me
I
too.
think at any point we need to start finding new ideas to help us.
All right. Well, I really appreciate your insight, Terry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's since the surf just came up, let's do this thing. Glenn Greenwald has been aggressively defending the Libs of TikTok account. Now, he might not like that characterization. He has been, at the very least, claiming that Taylor Lorenz's journalism, in which she revealed the identity of the person behind Libs of TikTok, an account that is coordinating with both Republican media outlets and Republican politicians. So it seems obvious that that's inherently newsworthy. But right-wing operatives like Greenwald are attempting to hide the ball and make it about proper journalism standards. When you make it about, is this doxing? Is this good journalism? And that is the debate that's being had. There is less of a focus on the fact that gay kids, trans kids, gay teachers, trans teachers, queer teachers, etc., were being actively doxed themselves their names, accounts being broadcast on this larger platform in order to call them groomers and pedophiles
And to literally call for them to be fired
from their jobs. And in the case of kids, bullying children because the person that runs this account has bigoted views towards non-straight people. That is the real conversation. But for Glenn and other right wingers, they don't want to have that conversation because what they're defending is so reprehensible when you put it in those terms. And so a caller called into Glenn Greenwald's show to dispute.
No, I don't think that's what this is. This is Q Anthony and Glenn, I believe, talking. I think this is
Okay.
Q on Colin.
Oh, I apologize. I thought this was his show. But regardless, I don't even know what Colin is. Oh, it's that app. Yeah,
it's this
gotcha.
app. It might be Glenn's show on Colin. I'm not entirely clear on that. Yeah, it is. He's hosting it.
Okay. So it's on a Colin show. This is Q Anthony who called in to confront Glenn about this.
Yeah, I mean they sometimes have conversations quite regularly because Q is on Rumble or Rumble, I think is the ones. But yeah, I guess Colin too. So yeah, here's them discussing this.
Solidarity that they're telling trans people that their lives are valuable and telling gay people that there's nothing wrong with you. And then this account quote tweets them or takes what they're saying completely out of context, posts shorter snippets and says, this person is a groomer. And then they get fired from their job. I think the public does have a right to know who the fuck this person is and why they're doing it.
We just got done saying that lots of people, including on the left, routinely smear people as Russian agents, as agents of the Kremlin, traitors, as people who are
people as Russian agents, agents of the Kremlin. Who are the people in this instance, Glenn? I just want to. Okay, maybe there are a few instances of pro-democratic Twitter accounts calling random individuals in online discourse or random people agents of the Kremlin, Russian agents.
That's bad. So
yeah,
what?
I don't agree with that. I think that's wrong.
As opposed to this, which is right.
But largely, right, this is just a whataboutism, which is seemingly his only rhetorical tactic at this point. But the larger group of people who are being called Russian assets in this instance that he's referring to in mainstream democratic discourse by, like, say, Rachel Maddow or something, it's you, Glenn, or it's Republican politicians, or it's Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah, and that sucks. They
Yeah,
shouldn't do that.
okay, but those are powerful folks, as opposed to random teachers who they're trying to get fired.
Right.
So, just be clear about the way that he's conflating powerful people who, he says the Democratic elite and the liberal elite are against the little guy. And this is what he's doing. He's blurring the lines between people in politics and regular teachers.
Post shorter snippets and says, this person is a groomer, and then they get fired from their job. I think the public does have a right to know who the fuck this person is and why they're doing it.
We just got done saying that lots of people, including on the left, routinely smear people as Russian agents, as agents of the Kremlin, as traitors, as people who are treasonous.
Except we know that, but Glenn,
all the time for being a pedophile.
But we know that those accusations are but we know that's demonstrably false. We know that's false, though. That's the thing. I can look at the tweets and see that this person has said that. Like, I know that it's not false. I know that they definitely have put people's lives in danger. I know that they definitely have smeared people as pedophiles that are absolutely not bad. I can look at the tweets and see that. But in your case, it is demonstrably false. In the case where people are smeared as Russian collaborators, as agents, that is also demonstrably false.
Or people who are called fascist or racist or misogynist or anything else very, very casually. There's always an argument to make that someone has crossed some sort of rhetorical or argumentative line that makes them fair game to be unmatched.
Pause it.
Yeah.
This is okay. Go on.
This is what he's doing is conflating what Libs of TikTok is doing by saying, "Look at this teacher; they're a mentally ill groomer," to us saying, like, calling out like Tucker Carlson and calling him a fascist, which is remarkable, and it's also very, very. I mean, Glenn's just completely full of shit on this argument. We talked about the issue we had with the Canary missions and anonymity yesterday. Like it's just like it's a problem now because it's like the right is being caught. Let me find this.
It's also the within the context right now of legislation in Florida and in other states that are copying it, meant to target teachers in this way. It is a media arm of a political project, which is not the same as us calling Tucker Carlson a fascist or saying that Glenn capes for fascists, for example.
Yeah, Glenn in
Which is true.
2018 saying, "Look at how disgusting this Canary mission website is."
Oh yeah, put this up. Put this up.
The people.
This is 2018, Glenn.
Look at how disgusting this Canary mission website is. The people who run it are the worst cowards hiding behind anonymity. They publish names of students and professors. They claim they are racist due to Israel criticisms. Now, I'll just say this. The problem I have with that is that it's going after, people who are doing good things. Criticism Israel, right? Like the issue of like the reason, like there's a difference between people going after, say, a racist professor or
You're not just critiquing the form, you are critiquing the like values of what targeting or what critique of a certain ideology is, because one is hateful and one is righteous. And again, that's another plane of debate that Greenwald and right-wingers can engage in.
Also, like the very when he talks about like all this people uncarefully calling people racist, it's just interesting. Like I don't know, does Sam owe does he think he owes Sam Harris an apology? Because Glenn Greenwald was really going after Sam Harris about being Islamophobic, which I think was righteous and a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But apparently he's all against this stuff now. But anyway, let's just play a little bit more of this back and forth.
I can look at the tweets and see that this person has said that. Like, I know that it's not false. I know that they definitely have put people's lives in danger. I know that they definitely have smeared people as pedophiles that are absolutely not that. I can look at the tweets and see that. But in your case, it is demonstrably false. In the case where people are smeared as Russian collaborators, as agents, that is also demonstrably false.
Or people who are called fascist or racist or misogynist or anything else very, very casually. There's always an argument to make that someone has crossed some sort of rhetorical or argumentative line that makes them fair game to be unmasked. And all I'm saying is that no one is going to sit around and watch this tactic get applied on behalf of one side of the political spectrum against the other. Obviously, people are going to
pause it. I'm sorry. Dude, just keep it up for a sec. I just have to make this point. He is just a center. He's making a centrist argument, but just making it a little bit more online.
Yeah, I mean, generally, like I think there are certain people who write under pseudonyms on the left, and it's like, would the case for doxing them is not as clear and present as the one to which again, already making a mistake by using the word doxing. Reporting on the name that's publicly available of this freak who ran libs of TikTok would be the same as say like some anonymous writing Jacobin writer. It's not the same thing. And if people want to have like, you can't have a position on this, in my opinion, that completely like is entirely consistent without focusing on like what's the actual ideology and work being done here. Like and like I'd be against it, but if somebody from a socialist perspective has a pseudonym and they are influencing say Bernie Sanders and AOC in things that they're doing and they get unmasked, like I might not be happy about it, but like it's like Atrio says, it's like that's part of the territory. That's part of influencing politics on a mass scale. Is you are a public actor. Your identity is of public interest.
That most people on the left, the liberal left, defended the Washington Post here, said the Washington Post did a great thing.
I'm not defending the Washington Post. You will never catch me defending the Washington Post. What I am saying though is that A, this person exercised piss poor OPSEC, and B, I'm not going to throw any of my conscience or energy towards defending that person because frankly they were doing the exact same shit that they got caught out for.
Yep.
I mean the difference is that all the videos that they were curating were ones that people put into the public domain using their names.
And so did she. She put herself out into the public domain by registering a .us domain.
There you go. Good
Boom. Good job. Good work there. Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, just like the it's really frustrating. A guy like Glenn, because he constantly drapes himself in principle, and everybody knows what you've been doing.
Yeah.
Everybody knows, like, it's just unbelievable.
But he's honestly, everything that motivates him seemingly is just like a grievement about being slighted by some sort of like liberal. And
He's an anti-liberal. Yeah, exactly.
and Taylor Lorenz called him an online influencer in his piece, where he confirmed the libs of TikTok creator's name. So that's the reality of the situation. He felt embarrassed, and so now this is the hobby horse.
And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to allow him to just be like, this is about principle. What if it happened on the other foot? No, you are a fan of that account, Glenn. Like that's actually like more interesting to me. Hear you defend, like, saying you like that account, than it is like whatever bullshit you want to talk about operational security and identity protection. Like, what's interesting is that you were promoting a hate account, and like, I don't know. I think you should be more embarrassed about it than trying to defend the thing.
Solidarity.
No, it's okay. Cap, no fun. Context is everything. If someone's goal is helping people, it's fine for them to be anonymous. If someone wants to kill trans kids, we need to know who we are fighting. Yeah. Dave from Jamaica. Glenn Greenwald turning into Sam Harris has been something to watch. Yeah, I think he's more like, he's Barry Weiss, basically. Greenwaldo.
But the Sam Harris stuff is very funny when he gets, he's all on this jag of, the left is just so fast to smear people as misogynists and racists and this and that. But when Glenn was, when it was before he made his turn, he made complete currency off of promoting people's criticisms of Sam Harris, which were good criticisms, by the way. Like, because Greenwald was at that point laundering himself.
That's how I was introduced to Greenwald. I remember, I was a teenager, I think, when that Sam Harris thing came out, or when he was rising to prominence. I thought I found him despicable.
Yeah.
And so that was, I think, how I really started consuming more of Greenwald's content, because I found that to be compelling.
Greenwald's a guy who, before he was blogging, did pro bono work for fascist legal work. And then when he started getting into blogging, he had to apologize for calling immigration a parade of horribles. And I think for saying, I think he apologized, maybe he didn't apologize for this one, where he was poo-pooing people in Brazil. Leftists, he called collectivists, protesting Bush in Brazil. That's back in 2006. And then I think my sense, just to psychoanalyze him, is that he realized that wasn't going to pay in a sort of post-Bush world. So he became a more, he de-emphasized some of the more libertarian parts of his civil libertarian thing, and played, like I said, like dipped his feet into like calling out Sam Harris for Islamophobia. And I think some of this stuff about censorship that he's about is he's pissed that he had to self-censor early on in his career. And now he has enough money to say what he wants about certain things, and not stand up for certain other things. Like, I'll be a civil libertarian when it comes to the government overreach on the border, but I'll never talk about Title 42 with Tucker Carlson.
Sometimes Matt makes such a good point that I can't help but smile. That was one of those times. That was good. Movement MR. Hey, MR crew, I must say your content has only improved while Sam is away. I have decided to subscribe. No longer are you having nuanced discussions and opinions, and no longer do you care to deeply understand an issue before commenting. The reactionary, over-confidential, non-self-aware opinion making is what we are lacking in the left media ecosystem now. More power to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, beautiful assertion.
It's really sweet. Real Ace Attorney. Hey, MR crew, I just wanted to check what time your NFL live draft coverage starts next Thursday. Also, are you doing only Thursday and Friday draft coverage, or should we expect 3-day Saturday night coverage? Thanks. No, but stay tuned for my Twitter account, where I've been working on my own mock draft. It's a completely useless exercise that is proven wrong every year, but I have a lot of energy and insomnia, and that's what I do with my time. So there you go. Dave from Jamaica, my time in NYC has made me hate driving. I wish I had public transportation down here. I was about to say, are you in NYC? But you were just saying you're nostalgic for it.
I've gotten so much reading done, audiobook listening, podcast listening on subways. I love it. I mean, you can do that in a car too, but in a car, I typically listen. I listen to a lot less music, I will say, also, because driving, you usually want to listen to something musical as opposed to audible, in my opinion.
Really?
I mean, you got to go back and forth, but I definitely listen to way more music, particularly like rock music when I was driving.
I prefer I'm nostalgic for driving because of my ability to focus more on podcasts as opposed to when I'm walking. I don't know why. But maybe it's just because like I don't know. Not really worth unpacking right now. Repping the 509. Us Sonics fans remember how Howard Schultz assured everyone when he sold the team to that Oklahoma oil baron that he wouldn't move them. F that guy. 100%. I didn't realize that he sold the team in Seattle. That was him? Schultz?
Schultz, yep. After Kevin Durant's first year.
Majority Report Wardrobe Court. It's embarrassing that the NBA is not in Seattle. Especially because those are some of my favorite jerseys of all time. Those Sonics jerseys, old school ones.
They'll get a team. I think them and Vancouver are going to get teams.
Majority Report Wardrobe Coordinator. Really funny hearing Howard Schultz, the guy. They should get a team because of the Kraken getting that as a new stadium. Anyway, really funny hearing Howard Schultz, the guy who said he would run as an independent centrist if he didn't get the candidate he wanted, complain about outside forces. Yeah. Tojo's bald head competition. Who? Dutch Bros? Pete's Coffee? Give me a break, butthole. Right.
Yeah, I think like the only like Duncan is Duncan really. I don't think Duncan's really making moves outside the East Coast.
No.
There's one other state that has that people go to more than Starbucks, and it's Minnesota, and it's a coffee shop I used to be a barista at, Caribou Coffee.
Caribou, huh?
That's the #1 coffee in Minnesota.
Nice. I'm kind of a coffee snob, so I've given up Starbucks for years at this point, but
yeah, they burn their beans.
Yep. DNC Google pundit. Emma, great points about the Dems missing these types of layups. Dems can't run on the just orange man bad and not provide material benefits, but if I was a Dem running for office against any and every Republican in the past 4 years, every other sentence I'd say is, I don't care how nice my opponent might appear. They're beholden to people who think JFK Jr. and think Trump really won in 2016, et cetera, et cetera. There are a bottomless well of layups there. Matt and I were just talking about this before the show. Hillary Clinton's arrogance about the Pied Piper strategy with Trump was wrong in that instance because she was the wrong candidate against it. Yeah. But like Trump still being in the picture is a gift for Democrats that they don't deserve, frankly.
Yeah, I never really understood the people get mad at the Pied Piper strategy because it failed. But that strategy, like, it's just a fairly like often successful strategy in politics of stoking the insane parts of people to walk it off. I mean, that's how LBJ just crushed Barry Goldwater. And the problem was the candidate was Hillary Clinton, not the Pied Piper strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron is not cool. Emma, you should throw your mock draft in the keynote and make it 4 pages. It's easy to make something look cool and good. Maybe I'll do that. Kirsten Cinema. Emma, you're execrable, puerile little gremlin. How dare you form opinions and spew them forth on the show that employed you? And that cuck Samuel has repeatedly said is not made for all people, especially for conflict-hungry, sniveling online leftists. I mean, really, how dare you? Hi, Matt. Thank you, Kirsten Cinema. Leech from Minneapolis here in Caribou's garbage. It's all sugar there. Vomit emoji.
It is very sugary. Yeah, I mean, that's where I used to do 3 espresso white chocolate Americano pretty much every day.
You're proving the point. All right. Let's take another call for now. Calling from a 207 number. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Joe from Maine.
Joe from Maine. Hey, how are you?
Doing all right. I was listening to your show the other day, and I want to commend you first of all. Like, I've been very impressed with you covering the show without Sam this week. It's you actually brought up a really interesting point that brought me down a rabbit hole thinking about the economy when you were talking about Pete Buttigieg's performance as transportation secretary. And
Thank you, by the way.
Oh yeah, of course. And so this might sound a bit convoluted. Please interrupt me if you have like any questions on things. But obviously, the macro economy right now is in a bit of a tumble at the moment with inflation rising, and if anyone's like, I'll try to skip over like a lot of the macroeconomic like algebraic formulas, but like as inflation rises, there's this law called Okun's law, where inflation is inversely related to unemployment, and so the macroeconomy has an actual inertia. So as GDP rises, you're going to have inflation start to rise. And so for the last 30 years, inflation has been relatively very moderate and been very under control. This is the first time we've had this issue of like inflation being above 7% in the last 30 years. And one of the so because of the war in Ukraine, the supply shock is actually increasing the velocity of the inflation rate. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we get to 10% inflation rate. But my point is that, and please correct me if you think my analysis on this is wrong. I think that Buttigieg isn't necessarily doing a terrible job as transportation secretary. Hear me out. I think the issues that he's doing with the transportation secretary position is planned in a way, because the only way we can actually cut inflation is by doing something called a sacrifice ratio, where effectively we reduce GDP in order to reduce inflation. That's the only way we can actually do that for the way that we look at economics through a capitalist system. And the best way to do that, to reduce GDP, is by increasing unemployment. And
well, yes,
as please go on if you have something to say on that.
I don't know if it's as connected as you're describing. I think in terms of the overall philosophy of someone like Buttigieg and the administration, you are correct that they want a certain they are uncomfortable with the balance as it is right now, and that's why you'll constantly hear about labor shortages, etc., because there is the conventional understanding of most of our economic players in government is that there needs to be a certain amount of insecurity in order to keep inflation under control. And so I don't know if Buttigieg, though, I don't think it's as coordinated as you might be indicating.
Totally fair.
But frankly, it doesn't need to be as much so, because he is working in concert with industry, was my contention. Because
Right.
he's just listening to what he's not seemingly listening to these truckers unions that want
No, of course
wages to increase. He's listening to the executives that are claiming that they have a trucker shortage because basically they refuse to raise wages, employ truckers in a more secure fashion as opposed to as contractors. And then when it comes to the airlines, they got their bailout money before, I believe, the Biden administration started.
Yes.
I think Buttigieg perceives that as that's before my time. Now I'm working with these executives, and I don't really care what they did with that money before, even though that was supposed to go to their workforce to keep them employed. We're moving forward. And so the issue here is that he's not compelling airlines to cut into their profits and actually employ people with the money that they were supposed to get, which they got under the Trump administration with no strings. So
Oh,
that's my guess.
you're 100%. No, you're 100% right there, and I'll even go further. Because like I enjoyed that conversation so much that you had. Again, it really got me thinking. Because after that effective bailout that we gave to the airline industry, I mean, the federal government. I mean, if we remember what we did back in the day to Bear Stearns, I mean, we effectively manhandled them in terms of like what we allowed them to do, how much they could sell their stock for, et cetera, and yet we treated the airlines with kid gloves. I mean, if Buttigieg wanted to, he could have easily implemented some autocratic sort of way of handling the airline industries. I mean, because we're just they're just so indebted to the federal government in a lot of ways. But the Biden administration, this is probably not even allowable for Buttigieg in general, just because he has no control over really anything. We all understand corporations rule this country, but the fact of the matter is that could have been an option, and they of course chose not to go that route to enforce fair economic sanctions on them, and they just gave them a bailout. Which is why I think that a lot of this is planned in a way to go back to my Okun's Law theory of, I think both the right wing and the left wing are probably in cahoots to increase unemployment in this country. And the transportation sector is just a perfect sector to try to increase unemployment over the next few years to potentially fight inflation. Whether that will work or not, I don't know. But I really think that is actually a strategy that is being implemented by but not just the Biden administration, but probably also by the Republicans as well. I mean, because you're not hearing the Republicans at all like tear apart Pete Buttigieg for his role as transportation secretary.
Well, they'll just tear him apart for being gay when he runs for president in 2024. That's kind of it. And having kids. All right, Joe. I really appreciate the call, though, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, good job. Again, thanks for having me on.
Yep, of course. Have a good weekend. Bye. Or you want to do this?
Yeah, I suppose sort of bait.
This is right, exactly. Greg Gutfeld has a thought here on who should be on a theoretical task force to combat disinformation on Twitter. I guess under Elon Musk's rule, if he were to successfully take over, we don't really know here. The names are shocking that he suggests, or not shocking, more hilarious.
Yeah, it's sort of almost too perfect.
And then you kind of know our biases, right? I mean, it's like if Donald Trump was running a disinformation initiative, the other side would be going, "You're crazy," and so Barack Obama is the world's most famous Democrat, right? So of course you're going to know that he's going to be biased. So you're going to need to have people like on let's say on the Twitter board or in some kind of initiative like this, be unaffiliated whatsoever with politics.
Please.
Right? The people who are credible in my mind are like the Peter Boghossians and the Michael Schellenberger, who's an independent running for governor. You need independent voices. Brett Weinstein, Bill Maher is interesting because he's at the left, who's fed up with the left. You have to look at the people who, as the judge.
Bill Maher is interesting because he's on the left, but is fed up with the left, which is why he's the perfect independent voice.
Bill Maher is a guy who said that it was good that we invaded Vietnam because we needed to show the Soviets that we were tough. He's not a leftist. He's a capitalist liberal.
Yeah. All right. He's not even a liberal anymore at this point, but.
I said, are free speech absolutists. They're generally comedians and writers, right? They're never politicians because the politicians always end up defending their side. So look,
he literally just cited a politician, Schellenberger, who's I guess running as their
an independent,
but
yeah.
I would need to look that up. I bet he's a right winger.
For independent voices with free time, and I guess that eliminates Chris Wallace.
Ahead ahead Americans concerned about high gas prices are not going to.
Oh, funny office politics, right? They're critiquing Chris Wallace because he left Fox News to work at CNN Plus, which just got shuttered. Ha, ha, ha.
Eric Weinstein, the political publicity stunt artist, a brother who works for Peter Thiel, is apolitical. Also, Peter Boghossian, who did the exact same thing, basically resigned because everything was getting too woke at the university that he was teaching at, is also apolitical. It's interesting how all these people, being apolitical means you have a sort of career fixation on fighting wokeness. I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, but that's centrism. That is the a telltale sign of Republicans trying to launder their extremist ideology. Like, that is how reactionaries get public credibility. That's the whole IDW
I mean,
garbage. They launder their right-wing politics and pretend that this isn't politics. This is just common sense. This is these are principled arguments. And then in 5 years, it becomes incredibly clear who they are. But they take that cachet initially and get people to buy in if they weren't necessarily on the right or wouldn't be predisposed to those kinds of arguments initially.
How many complete charlatans have we had to like suffer through, that got a whole bunch of mileage off of just saying they voted for Bernie Sanders?
Mhm.
Like Eric Weinstein, who again like just seems like a right winger to me. Tulsi Gabbard,
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, like this idea that I mean it's all over the place. It's funny you can't just, but it does reveal something true, which is that like being right wing is bad and you should hide it and be ashamed of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also why they're always saying that the projection of Biden's really a secret socialist or whatever is because all of their favorites are secret theocrats and or fascists.
Right.
Leech, absolutely ready for Minneapolis live MR show. Emma can get some caribou and Juicy Lucy. I definitely, through my Minneapolis travels, have had caribou there.
Do you know what a Juicy Lucy is?
No.
It's a burger with blue cheese in the middle.
You know I don't like cheese, right?
That's not my thing either. I don't.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
Odd, because you're like, I don't know. I thought you liked burgers and like stuff like that.
I like burgers. I don't like cheeseburgers. But it comes from I don't like cheese on like sandwiches type things because of a bad experience I had as a kid. But I like it like string cheese and pizza. But
taste aversion.
Yeah.
Emma, our crew. Much respect to you, Emma, for leading the way in these days as Sam recovers. Sincerely hoping for him to recover soon. Under your leadership, the show has managed to get an insult. The most number of dislikes, average daily views, and hate comments on IMs. I'm sure it's just sexism and not your lack of interviewing skills, the skills you lost when you stopped doing on-ground actual journalism.
Roast on Friday.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm pretty happy with my skills and their development, honestly. I think I'm getting good.
There you go.
Salty balls. Fuck my life. Can whoever was responsible for the thumbnail selection for MR videos do everyone with vision a favor and stop putting up those horrifying, grotesque pics of Charlie Kirk? The one about the Great Replacement Theory is particularly bad, and I've had insomnia ever since. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, the Seeing Public. All right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Apparently, that doesn't sell. Is Charlie Kirk's gums?
That is. Oh, I did see that. That is creepy. Impact Report. Longtime listener for 3 years now, and I have to appreciate how Matt has grown with the podcast. He's become more and more closed-minded. This is the same person.
I love it.
Overconfident and insecure, needing validation every few minutes. I wish he would shut up every once in a while.
I do. I need my validation.
When I look at you, I hear you talk, it screams like you are insecure in your beliefs.
Please validate me.
Oh man. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, this is from yesterday. On the sound sheet. Do we have let me or is it on the sound sheet today, Bradley? Can you just IM and let me know?
Oh yeah, it's 14.
14. Okay, gotcha. So Charlie Kirk Yeah, since we were just chatting about Charlie Kirk, he's doing a tour on Educate, Don't Mandate. That's he's seemingly on a tour on the road like every day of his life.
Is this a tour to celebrate the moves that the Biden administration is probably making after all this to like loosen COVID stuff?
Yeah, well, now that they're
guess,
appealing the Trump administration ruling, we'll never know if Charlie Kirk would have given Biden credit for letting this ruling stand. But here he is with Candace Owens, and they're on the Educate, Don't Mandate tour. There's a fire alarm that goes off, and Charlie Kirk tells a crowd of a bunch of people who he's responsible for to not evacuate the building.
Racist. If racism used to mean something, right? Now it just means that you disagree with me, I don't like you, and therefore you're a white supremacist. So they're borrowing a word from the past.
They're trying to stop the event by pulling a fire alarm. So
wow,
hopefully we can get that resolved.
That's a new one.
This is how you know
Who's they?
Your ideas are a threat to the left because they have to resort to these kind of childish tactics.
Wow. Never seen that one before. We had Beyonce music once, though. I said we once had the Beyonce music, but we didn't have that.
Yeah, we've seen a lot. I've heard about
Imagine
this,
just smoke just
it,
starts billowing.
it goes to show the petulant narcissism. Maybe there is a fire, the chance of a fire being very low, by the way.
But
well, okay.
Pause it, right? Like,
Yeah.
so they're on a anti-public health tour as they are downplaying the idea that a fire alarm could be indicating that there's a fire in the building when they are holding a bunch, hundreds of people, it seems like, at some sort of forum, and they're responsible for them, but they see no responsibility for that audience. Like it kind of
Yeah.
just it pairs very nicely with what they're trying to talk about here.
That would have made me very concerned, the addition of well, maybe it might be a fire, but probably not. Like, it's one thing if there are like an active group of people like trying to infiltrate and disrupt the meeting, and you say that. But if you say, well, actually, I think it's probably just, then it's like, well, Charlie, there are 400 people or something in this room right now. Like, maybe we should have someone check on that just to be sure that it was before we just like continue with Candace Owens saying how racism doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it's maybe just be a little bit more sure that it is not the woke left pulling the fire alarm just to prank you. You want to keep going?
I suppose we can play a little bit more.
Okay.
Attack. I've heard many times that they do this across the country. But
I've not heard
Candace,
that.
Let's proceed.
Yeah. So what was I just saying?
Just go through
We're
it.
talking about how the left is a group
Oh,
of petulant,
borrowing, yeah.
narcissistic children that have never grown up.
So borrowing words from the past, right? So they take a word that has a meaning and means
Supposed
something.
from
and
the
then they just say,
future.
we're going to say this word so that if you stand against it, then there's something wrong with you. Are they going to make us leave?
Prove there's a fire, and then we'll leave.
Standing ovation. Yeah, no, it's just a wonderful precedent.
Prove that the vaccines are 100% effective from me never, ever, ever, ever getting COVID, and then we won't take it, actually, still.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that they have new things to talk about, like how racism doesn't mean anything, and the left is children. Give me $40 to get in that room.
Calling from an 818 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Valley Girl from San Fernando Valley.
Valley Girl from San Fernando Valley. What's on your mind?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm a little nervous, so I wrote this stuff down.
Okay.
So regarding all the anti-trans, LGBTQ stuff that the right is trying to harm, or is harming, there is a new church. Sorry, let me catch my breath.
Can you talk a little more, a little louder? Is that all right?
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Let me take off my mask. There's a church called the Church of Prismatic Light, and they just filed for federal status, and they got approved. They are an affirming church that, you go on their TikTok. It's called Wildfire Smile, and the lady just filed status and it got approved. I don't know much about the church, but she says if you feel like you are a transgender person, it is up to you. But if you feel like you are transgender, you are more than welcome. You are encouraged to transition, and also they are protecting women's rights. So bodily autonomy is a great thing for them. They I don't know much about. I'm sorry, I really don't know much about the church. But if you want to have an abortion, it's completely up to you. You choose what you want. And to end this call, I'm sorry, I'm going on longer than I wanted to because I'm on my break. The church. People talk about how your religion, you have religious freedoms. Well, if you're going to be imposing your beliefs on this church, you're against our religious freedoms to do what we want with our body. So it's a brand new church. I think they have about 4,000 people who have shown interest in joining this church. But if you guys want to look into it, like I said, the TikTok is called Wildfire Smile, and she's done a couple of things. And if you want to baptize yourself in this church, you can stand in the light and say, I want to affirm myself as a prismatic person, or you can sprinkle glitter on yourself, and that will also baptize you in the church. I've only seen a few of the TikToks, but I think it's a way of fighting back against these religious zealots who are out to harm people.
I appreciate the info, Valley Girl. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. Take care and stay safe.
Take care. Bye. Let's do this Matt Walsh clip. That'll be maybe our last clip. We'll see. Matt Walsh is in a constant panic about not being able to break through to the degree that, say, Candace Owens or Ben Shapiro or his other peers are able to. So he's always overcompensating, doing like on the ground reporting campaigns.
He's a tryhard.
Yeah, he tries and always comes up a little short. So here he is talking about the Disney controversy on the right, in which he advocates for decapitating the beloved Mickey Mouse.
Now, thanks to this policy, which was put in place back in the 1960s, Disney has been its own little fiefdom, literally its own kingdom in the middle of Florida. It essentially governs itself, and along with those privileges of autonomy came enormous tax benefits and breaks. So DeSantis and his Republican counterparts in Florida want to take that sweet little deal, which has profited Disney to the tune of billions, and just toss it into the wood chipper. Why? Well, obviously because Disney is not interested in keeping to itself and being its own thing. It wanted to use its vast resources to intrude into Florida politics and impact Florida legislation.
Pause it. By donating to Republican politicians to such a degree that they initially refused to condemn Don't Say Gay until they got a bunch of internal pressure from their actual employees, because the corporate executives at Disney thought it was bad for business to alienate the Republicans in the state.
Exactly. That was a precipitating event, which is employees were pissed that at donations to DeSantis and the Florida Republicans. And then DeSantis goes on this anti-gay jag, and they want to speak up against it. And so now this sort of threat is basically, because you have to understand that there are people at Disney in the executive level that agree with what Matt Walsh is saying, and basically would like to give him what he wants, but the workers, particularly like Pixar, don't want to do that.
Well, the executives don't want it too, because frankly, they get it's less favorable for them money wise internationally in different markets where they have censoring laws where they'll crack down on this and not show certain gay scenes or maybe not show the movie at all.
Yeah, and so this is just material support for those sorts of powerful bigots.
Yep. And by the way, like this threat is very real at this point because if DeSantis signs this into law, the Florida House voted to revoke Disney World's designation as a special tax district, a privilege Disney has had for 55 years, effectively allowing the company to self-govern its $25,000 theme park complex. The Florida Senate voted on Wednesday to eliminate the special zone, which is called the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Having cleared the way to this outcome with a formal proclamation, Governor Ron DeSantis will almost certainly make the measure official by adding his signature. It would take effect in June next year. So, like, this is a way to discipline a major corporation like Disney. Florida is now run entirely by Republicans. The House, the Senate, the governor is an extremist Republican. We go, we run the show now.
Yeah.
And we tell you, we're the free speech warriors. We tell you, corporation that puts art out into the world, art loosely used,
Culture.
but culture. And we're telling you, if you show a gay person kissing in a movie, which, like, again, the extent of Disney's gay representation has been basically two stormtroopers or something hugging in the background of a shot in the last Star Wars movie once. And now apparently there's some gay representation in this upcoming Buzz Lightyear movie. And that's what they are preemptively revoking Disney's special tax district designation on behalf of. Now, this tax designation sounds silly and probably wrong.
Yeah. But it's wrong to take aim at it to try to make the company more anti-gay.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't like Disney. I think the grand total of, and I've been to Disney World, but I think like the impact it's had on culture is negative. In part, I think those are structural things. And you want to attack Disney and some of these woke corporations, then move copyright terms back to what the Constitution said they were, instead of this extreme, or the Bill of Rights or wherever it's enumerated, but as opposed to like this life plus 75 years or whatever the hell crap, because that's the real problem with Disney.
Yes.
And yeah, I ultimately I'm not super concerned for Disney, because if they get attacked, I'm not like, I think like the only reason to have solidarity for them is for the ideological purposes. I think the ultimate, like,
and for the artists that say Pixar, as opposed to Disney owns Lucasfilm. Disney owns ESPN.
Right.
I mean, like, they are going to be fine, but Mickey Mouse, if Matt Walsh has his way, might be dead.
Yeah, and like they're going to be fine, but
Yeah.
they should be fine in a way that's more inclusive than more like anti-gay. And like, to the extent that there's stakes in this fight, it's that.
Let's keep going on this though, because we got to get to his punchline.
One thing. It wanted to use its vast resources to intrude into Florida politics and impact Florida legislation. It wanted to craft Florida law, even while remaining exempt,
the truth,
largely from Florida law. And it wanted to do all this in defense of child groomers. It came out fully in favor of and committed to the sexual indoctrination of children.
Imagine if that happened. Imagine if that just wasn't bullshit. Like, if Disney's like, we want to fully indoctrinate and sexualize children. That insane statement.
Insane.
It proved itself to be an enemy of Florida parents and parents across the country and the world. Why should it retain its special privileges in light of that? Why shouldn't it be punished for what it's done? Why shouldn't it be made to feel the pain? Defense is simply stopping Disney's intrusion. It's just saying, no, you can't do that. Offense is punching back, and punching back hard, and making sure that they feel it. Offense is making an example of them. Offense is taking Mickey Mouse's head and putting it on a spike. Metaphorically, of course.
Oh, yes.
And offense is what we need.
Right. Metaphorically, we'll put this animated character's head on a spike. It's so silly. I mean, frankly, it goes to show, this reminds me of what has been happening in Texas with Greg Abbott at the expense of his state's economy, honestly, for a small period of time, was mandating these searches of commercial trucks coming over the border from Mexico because there could be secret migrants in there. Or like a mini I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go too far, but that it's they're otherizing migrants, right? And so that was his whole performative um action there. And he didn't seem to mind, except other people, other Republicans in Texas were like, wait, this is actually might hurt our economy. It's disrupting the supply chain. It's disrupting capital. You can't do this. So he had to backtrack, pretend he was brokering some sort of deal with Republican, excuse me, Mexican governors. Okay, we'll allow these trucks to cross, but you got to be tough on immigration. And then he thinks he's saved face. But actually revoking this status from Disney, I don't know if Disney would actually move or do something or reallocate some resources to California and their park there. What happens if tourism is hampered to Central Florida and Orlando?
I think that would be a bit of a concern. And yeah, like why the interesting question is like why was Disney granted those privileges in the first place? It's because conservatives liked and the power structure liked the impact it was having on culture. That's why we keep extending copyright for it. Like again, like I'm fine with a lot of these structural things being rolled up. The talented people at Pixar will be able to survive that, I think. And I don't know. I think good for Disney though, to the extent that it does continue standing up for this stuff. Even though I don't like it as a company.
Yeah, I like parts of it.
Yeah, it's fine. Just ESPN's fine. I might see the I don't know Lightyear movie. I guess I just saw my first commercial for it this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I love Inside Out was one of my favorite movie experiences a really long time. That was I saw that in theaters and I ugly cried in that movie. So really good Pixar movie. Even though that final Star Wars series was trash. I like the first two, and then the last movie was so bad. All right, let's take one more call. We're gonna read some IMs and then we will get out of here. This is the final call of the day, calling from a 917 area code. That sounds like it's in our backyard. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is me.
That's you, 917.
Hey, it's Jake the teacher.
Hey, Jake the teacher. How are you?
Good. Last day of spring break, so I finally got to call in.
Nice.
And yeah, wanted to give a quick update. You know, this is a national issue, but also here in New York City, it's about the standardized testing season. When we come back from break on Monday, students from 3rd grade to 8th grade are going to have the math test. And we had the ELA test about a month ago. It was a disaster. You know, kids are very, very like traumatized and high strung this whole year. It's been a very tough year. Staff shortages, a lot of coverages, and a lot of people out for health issues and COVID. So it's just been really hard getting through the year. But when the testing season came around, you see a lot of kids acting out, and any teachers listening know what I'm talking about. You know, they want to avoid work. You know, there's been a lot of fights, and for the first time in my school, we had about half the kids opt out, and that's a lot. You know, in New York City, it's been really, really low, and most of the opting out has been like around the state and Long Island, and it's been about 20% at the most statewide. But this year, it's going to be really high, and the only reason parents know about this is because of word of mouth. The New York City Department of Education still does not notify parents that they have the right to opt out.
Wow.
But they've been fine.
Well, they don't want them
but they've
to, right?
No. Well, we're not sure who is still pulling the strings, because now you have Eric Adams as the mayor, and before it was de Blasio. But there's always been these deals, you know, with education reformers and privatizers to keep everybody testing. You know, when Cuomo was the governor, there was always like these backroom deals with New York City and also with the teachers union that they would never join in the boycotts. They would never, they would never tell parents, feel free to opt out, do whatever you think is best. Even though the state union would say stuff like that, know your rights. They were funding billboards, but the New York City union, which is about 40% of the state, it never has. And so, the only reason parents know about it is because last year it was totally optional because you would have had to come into a building to take the test. And so parents were finally told, you can opt in instead of opt out. And so this year they know that they can opt out, and a lot of them still don't know. There's still a lot of principals that lie. They tell you, oh, you can't do that, or you have to come in person, you have to jump through hoops. So it seems like it's going to be a bigger deal, when the numbers finally come out. But of course, we all have to remember that when he was campaigning, Joe Biden told an auditorium full of teachers that he would end the standardized testing. And of course, that hasn't happened. So, the update is, the parents are taking things into their own hands, and, they're figuring out little by little that they have this right. And we'll see, if 50% of my school opted out during the ELA, now it's a couple weeks later, and, they're having the testing 2 days after we come back from the break. This is crazy. These are like in my school was sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. These kids are like out of their minds. They want normalcy. And we're giving them like the worst of our education policies, and we're doing field trips. You're hearing about pizza parties, all this kind of stuff, and it sends the message that once the tests are over, the whole school year is shot. The whole school year, like, nothing's important anymore. We're just gonna fill out the weeks, and kids aren't going to have to pay attention. Nothing really is as important. So, yeah, I just wanted to give an update, because it's been a crazy couple of years, and this year, has been very stressful for students, parents, teachers, and the government and the education policymakers are not helping at all. They're just like so counterproductive. In fact, they've given more tests. We had to take 6 more days of testing this year than we did in previous years because they want to diagnose where all the learning loss is. So we get computerized tests 3 points during the year that are now mandated in New York City that were not before, and that brings my school to a total of about 18 days of testing a year.
Jeez.
And some kids get over 20, 21 because if they're English language learners, they have to take more tests, or if you're an 8th grader, you have to take a science test. 20 something days of testing.
That's insane.
All
right, well, call us back next week and if you can, and maybe just give us well, you might be in school, but I am curious to hear what the percentage is this time around in terms of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can only share my school, but I'll try to give an IM update, and and people from other schools, the kids know, the teachers know, and then we're gonna get the official numbers probably not until next year, or
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for the call. That's going to be the Jake the Teacher final call of the week. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks. All right, folks. With that, we're going to read I don't know, as many IMs as I desire, and then we're going to get out of here. Forest 2. My conspiracy theory: Republicans keep bullying Disney, fully alienating them. Disney starts donating to the Dem Party in Florida, creating a significant shift in the political landscape there. That shift moves elections down the line, potentially causing Florida to swing Dem. I wish I had your optimism. Mark Monkey. Hey, Emma R. Crew. Got it. Great job this week. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, to hit the remainder of our goal for my wife's surgery on Monday, I will be doing a 24-hour live stream on my Twitch channel. If any of you are interested in coming on shortly or just promoting it, that would be amazing. I wish I knew. Oh, at 3 p.m.? Mark, send us an email at Majority Reporters, and Bradley will forward it to me, and I'll see what I can do. I've been retweeting your fundraiser. Also, yes, check out Mark Monkey's fundraiser. It'll be on my Twitter feed. Tag me in it, and I'll retweet it again. If I can't come on, I'll do my best. But everybody check out that live stream as well. Fundraiser for Mark Monkey's wife's surgery. Four more. Fruity Giuliani. I didn't know Charlie Kirk was in the alternate reality sequel of Don't Look Up, titled Prove That There Was a Fire, where a team of arsonists burn down buildings where right-wingers are gathered, and they never evacuate because they all convince each other that it's just an Antifa troll trying to troll them. Looks like a cathartic film, yeah. Chris Burdick, the only thing that would have made that Charlie Kirk clip any funnier would it be if it was followed by a clip of him and Candace Owens standing amidst smoldering ruins with soot all over their faces, blaming the left for their refusal to listen to the fire alarm. Sam, soft-collared shtick, prove an airplane hit the building before we evacuate. And the final IM of the week, Sam's secret cider parties. Emma should start a sports show on Patreon. I think people would pay good money to hear takes like Carson Wentz would be good in Indy. Yep, that's not one of my finest. Not one of my finest. But I've had good ones. Giants should have never taken Saquon second overall. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much. Great week. I'm exhausted. I'm ready for Sam to come back. Great 2 weeks. Appreciate it. And we will see you on Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know